Hi there, I'm Laurie Williams, and today I want to demonstrate a technique for painting alcohol ink on aluminum, and I'm going to be doing that with some heavy-duty aluminum foil, and we're going to do some embossing, and then we're going to paint it for alcohol ink and make cards out of it. So I start off with a piece of aluminum foil, and I'm trying really hard not to wrinkle it too much. And I actually have it down on a piece of foam. This is a piece of 11 by 17 craft foam. I'm going to do some embossing, and I don't want it to puncture or tear the aluminum foil, and the best way to prevent that is to have a soft surface underneath, and the foam works great for that. So the aluminum foil has two sides. It has a side that is more of a matte, less shiny, and then it has, if you flip it over, it has a very shiny side. So what I want to do is I want to take this foil, and we're going to see which one works better with the alcohol ink. So to do this, I'm going to split this into two, and I'm going to use a pair of scissors to just cut it straight into. I'm going to set one piece aside, and this first one we're going to work on the shiny side. Now, because I want the shiny side to be up, I'm actually going to flip it over and work on the non-shiny side, so that when I flip it back, the embossing will be on the shiny side. To do my embossing, I'm going to use these tools that I've got from Amazon, and they have a silicone tip that's very soft, so this won't really press through, but this other end has a ball end, and that piece there I can use to do my embossing. So I'm just going to start off making some designs. So to get a feel for about how big that will be, I just have a piece of paper that I have cut in two, and so this is 5.5 by 8.5. And I just kind of get a feeling for that. So if I wanted to do a card that was half that size, and I think that's what I want to do. So this is roughly a 4 by 6. And I want to work in kind of that area. So I'm just going to take one of my alcohol ink markers, just kind of give me a rough, because I'm going to end up trimming it shorter than the card itself. And I just kind of want to measure out so I get a visual of the area I need to work in. Now, I'm not going to make anything too representational right now. I'm just going to do basically some doodles and see what we get there. So by lightly pressing, I'm putting an indentation into the aluminum foil without cutting through it. So I can turn it over and you can see how that turns out. So if we do a number of just really pretty designs here, you could get really fancy with this and do landscapes or structures or cityscapes, all sorts of ideas. But all I want to do here is demonstrate how this works. And I'm just randomly going through and creating some doodles using my little stylus here. Okay, now I'll flip that over and you can see that it's a really nice, beautiful embossed design there. Really fun to do. And you, honestly, anything. You can trace, if you had a coloring page, you could trace images, that sorts of things. If you have a stencil, you could follow a stencil. I'm just freehanding it on this one. And again, this particular one we're doing here is so that the shiny side is up. And we're going to do it both ways so you can see the difference. Okay. On this side, I think I'm going to do a bunch of flowers. You could write, if you could write backwards, you could do, so I'm going to do the word love. And I'm going to attempt to write it backwards. Luckily, the word love is kind of an easy one to write backwards. So you can see the reason I do that is so that it shows up correctly when you flip it over. So you can actually write little sentiments in it, which is kind of cute. An option there is if you can, you could write your words on a piece of paper on the computer, or write your words on a piece of paper backwards, or write it on something transparent, flip it over and trace over the paper. You can also print it out, a reverse image of the lettering. So those are some good ways to get some sentiments on these. But I'm just demonstrating the process, and so I just freehanded backwards, and I think it works pretty good. If you have a stash of embossing folders, you could also use this embossing folder with the aluminum foil too. That would work. Actually, I'd be interested to try that. I don't have a lot of embossing folders. I just find that freehand works great. Okay, so I have those two. Now I'm going to do the same sort of thing. This time I'm going to do it so that the non-shiny side is going to be out, and we'll see what the difference is with the alcohol ink. So I'm just going to take my makeshift card here and kind of take my marker and mark the edges so I can kind of have a guesstimate of where I need my edges to be. This is going to get cut out, so I don't have to be exact with it. I'm just trying to use it as a visual. There we go. Let's take a peek at what we got on that side. That looks really good. So it works really good with the marker on this back side when you're actually going on the shiny side of things. Still, you want to make sure you're on something very soft so that you have something with some give that's going to give that impression in there. There we go. So now if we turn it over, we can see this is the it's still a little shiny, but the non-shiny side. So now we're ready to add our alcohol ink to these. And I'm going to pull over the shiny one. So for this, I'm just going to start off just dabbing down some of the alcohol ink color. For this project, I'm using the Jacquard brand inks and maybe a couple of Rangers. I'm going to use the applicator tool. This is one of the Tim Holtz tools with the felt. I also, sometimes you'll see my videos, I will use just a regular block and squares of felt that I cut myself. We're going to start off with this first one. I'm going to use some lime green. So a few drops of the lime green on here. And then I'm just going to pounce that around. I'm pouncing that around. I'm turning it, kind of tossing it around. So this is the one that I have my word love on. And I got a pretty background going on here. So I'm just going to keep pouncing. I'm just going to get through. I'm not pouncing too hard. I don't want to press down on my embossed area. but I do want to vary it up a little bit, so I think I'll come in with a little bit of the Calabanza orange. And I'm just going to put that right on top of my green here, since I'm going to be mixing the two as it is. So I'm just going to pounce that around just to give it a little bit more color. That'll look really nice on my that'll look really nice on my card, I think. So the next thing that I can do on this side here is I can come back with a marker and actually highlight out some of these flowers. So I'm just, where they're embossed, I'm just kind of going in and pointing them out a little bit here. And so the alcohol just reactivates and it removes what's underneath here so that these little flowers that I embossed in just stand right out. It's so pretty. Okay, and in the center, I will come back in with a bright yellow. And I have my whole stash of markers here, so this can work out great. I can just pull these in as I need them. I noticed that certain colors are doing really well on this, on the aluminum, and some colors are a little more dull. So the yellow ends up being a little more dull, but I still like it. I'm still adding it in, like some of the areas. I'm actually going in some of the areas where the foil is still showing up and coloring it in with a little bit of this yellow. I think it adds a little more interest to it. Okay, so that's what I've done with this one, and I like how that turned out. I think that's going to look really pretty. It's got the little love here, and that'll look nice. On this side, I want to actually do something a little bit different. I'm going to actually pour a little bit of ink, but I'm also going to use a marker to add in some colors. So I'm going to start off with my Baja Blue. Again, I'm using the Pinata colors for this presentation. And I'm going to just kind of put that in, just drop it on there. That Baja Blue is just so pretty. I just love it. And I'm actually going to bring in the citrus from Ranger. And you can mix your brands, nothing wrong with that. I have a lot of different brands of inks, and I love that. So I'm trying not to contaminate that side over there. But I love the way that the blue and the green kind of work together. And so I have that in there, and I could just kind of like move the foil to let it flow. That's kind of nice. I could use my brush to manipulate it, move it around. I'm actually going to use my pouncer to just come in and pounce that and move it around. Love this. Very pretty. By pouring it on, I'm getting a better coverage than I was when I was being more intentional with it, which is pouncing it in. It still reacts the same, and as if you were working on like a Yupo or whatever surface. Because this is non-porous, and I think I'd like that just like it is. There are a number of things I could do. I could add metallics on top of this, and I could just kind of keep going to add, every time you touch it, it adds a little more texture. But I'm gonna let this dry before I do anything further, because I think that looks pretty cool, just like it is. And now I'm gonna bring over the version that we're working on, the duller side of the aluminum foil, and I am going to dispose of my pad. You could save it. Some people save their pads and reuse them, and you could do that. I'm going to start with a new one because I want to use a different color scheme on this. For this one, I'm going to use some pinks and purples. And I'm going to use, this one is the magenta, the Senorita Magenta. I'm just pouring it on there. And I'm just going to take that and pounce it around. Just get some good coverage there. And then I'll come back put some highlights in it with a different color, maybe a brush, I mean a pen, a marker. I have a little container of alcohol here, just so you can see what that looks like. It's right here. I'm going to put that on my pouncer here, and give it a little dry over here. And that adds some more interest to it as well. So you could go with a single color on there. And that's really pretty. Okay. Now I'm going to come back with one of my markers. This time I'm going to use a Prismacolor, and I'm going to highlight or just kind of lift off these embossed areas just to make them stand out a little bit. You could use a blender pencil, a blender pen if you wanted the aluminum to show up. You could certainly do that too. All I'm doing is just highlighting these a little bit, all these little doodles that I put in here. Okay, and just for a final piece there, I'm going to take my brush here, and I'm going to put a little bit of Purple Passion on my brush and just kind of flick it on there a little bit. So very, very gently. I loaded my brush with a little drop, and I'm just going to take it and splash it on here. And I think I need just a little bit more, not quite enough to come off. There we go. Oh, that's pretty. Okay. And for this one, I've got my flowers again. I'm going to do the same sort of thing with the green. So I'm going to pull back my green felt. Take my lime green and do some more pouncing. So I'm going to load back my sponge again. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do this time. I'm going to put some down on the sheet. All right, so I'm going to splatter this with a little bit of the orange, just like I did with that passion purple over here. I'll clean my brush first. Gosh, is it just me, or cleaning your brush it just, when I dipped that purple into that alcohol, it just went woo, the explosion of color. It never gets old for me. Okay, loaded up with some of the orange. Just gonna sprinkle that on there. Not too much, just a little bit. And some of it's going over on this side, it's okay. I think that just adds interest. Cool. All right, now I'm going to actually use the orange marker, that is, to color in my petals for my flowers. We're getting close here, guys. This is a really fun, quick project. So this time I have an Artist Loft. I told you I have every marker there is, every brand, and I love them all. I never found an alcohol ink marker I didn't like, and that's the truth. If I see a new brand, I try to go and buy it. And it lifts out that green and leaves that beautiful orange. If your marker's juicy enough, you gotta have kind of a juicy marker. If you have a dried out marker, all that's gonna do is lift it out. And maybe that's what you want. You know, you can use a lifter for this stuff too. And maybe you wanna lift parts of it to the original aluminum. That's something that some people might wanna do. It might be an artistic approach that you take to it. You're the boss. When you're doing this, you're the boss. So you do what comes natural and intuitively to you. Okay, now we're ready to cut these out and put them onto our cards. Okay, so I decided to pull out a couple pieces of cardstock and that I think that these would look nice on. And I tried this mustard yellow color, and I thought it might look cool to have some black cards. So I pulled some of that out too. So I only need 2 pieces. So what I'm going to do is, this is actually a textured cardstock. The outside is kind of a really nice texture. And what I'm going to do is measure these out and trim them out already. And so I just need to go to the 5.5 mark. So I'm going to half it this way, and then I'll fold it. So I have this at the 5.5 mark, and I'm going to cut it. And then on the back side is smooth. So I'm with that to be on the inside in case I need to write something inside. And I'm just going to take it and fold it down. Now I could use my card scorer, but this will work just fine for this. And so next I can just glue my aluminum embossed paintings onto these, and they will make beautiful cards. Okay, so using my folded cards, I'm ready to cut the embossed metal out and attach it to my cards. So the size of the folded cards are 5.5 by 4.25. So I need to cut out my pieces just a little bit shy of that so that I'll have a border around them. So what I ended up doing was cutting them here using my trimmer to about 5.5 inches wide by 4 inches tall. And actually I think I ended up going 3 3/4 inch tall, just so that I would have more of a border all the way around. Oh yeah, sentiment would be perfect on these cards. I'm not going to do them for this demonstration, but you know, I think it would look really good. Okay, so now we just need to attach these, and to do so I'm going to use some double-sided sticky tape. I flip it over, and then I take my sticky tape. Now I want to make sure that I have it really close to the edge, but not totally to the edge. Oops. And I have these small scissors that work really great for this. And I want to go around all the sides with my sticky tape. The thing to be careful with here is that you don't crumple your aluminum foil too much. And then you take that and line it at the top where you want it. Make sure you have it left and right where you want it. Attach it to the top. You don't want to rub too much. You don't want to get rid of your embossed area. Go down one side. Then go down this right side and then attach at the bottom. And then you're completely attached. And so that's that's the way you do that. And then you want to probably give yourself a little signature at the bottom. And to do that, I'm going to use my Pigma Micron, and I'm just going to give it a little sign. You can also, on the back side, if you have a stamp, you could stamp it. Let me see. So that I don't bore you, I'm going to fast forward through just adhering the rest of these to their cards. Just to keep on every single one of them, I apply the sticky tape, line it up, and just lightly press. Although it looks like I'm moving really fast because I've got the video sped up, I actually take my time with this part because it's easy for the aluminum foil to stick to itself as you're removing the tape. I really loved how these turned out, and it sparked some ideas that I think I'll use in some future videos. So make sure that if you're watching this on my YouTube channel that you subscribe so that you're notified when I post new things. Thanks so much for supporting the alcohol ink techniques and the alcohol ink art community groups on Facebook. And if you try these embossed card projects, I hope that you will share it with us so we can see what you've created. Thank you and happy inking.